Rick, about 8 years ago, there was probably not a more famous man alive.
Yeah,
maybe Muhammad Ali.
Well, I mean, he for a moment in time was about as famous as you can get, and it all happened at this moment. I'm going to play you the audio. Here we go.
What steps will your energy policy take to meet our energy needs, while at the same time remaining environmentally friendly and minimizing job loss for fossil power plant workers?
That was the question. All right, so his name is Ken Bone. And he's with us on the phone right now. We're going to talk to him because it's time for Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Men Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
All right, Dave, our next guest was perhaps one of the most famous people in America for about 15 minutes in 2016 during a nationally televised presidential debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Our red sweater wearing front row sitting hero asked the question to the candidates that we played in the intro. And I think what happened was his everyman demeanor set the internet ablaze. He became a national treasure. Please welcome Ken Bone. Ken, are you there?
Hey, Ken.
I'm here. Happy to be on with you guys. How you doing?
Thanks for coming on the show, Ken. You probably get asked this question all the time, but do you still have that red sweater?
No, I don't have the original. We sold it for charity years ago. Izod, the company that made it, gave $10,000 to one of my favorite charities for it.
Wow.
So it's in their archives along with some other of their famous garments they've made over the years, like James Dean's leather jacket from Rebel Without a Cause and Michael Jackson's moonwalk shoes.
Wow, you're in the same paragraph as James Dean and Michael Jackson. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
The sweater's probably in a cardboard box in the basement, but it is in the same building, in the same archive.
Do you want to share your charities to give a free plug to the charity?
Yeah, what was the charity?
That charity was called St. Patrick's Center. It is a Housing First Homes initiative close to where I'm from here around the St. Louis area. So Housing First is a homeless initiative where instead of dangling stable housing in front of you like a carrot, like, hey, if you come to rehab or if you listen to our
podcast,
like proselytizing or whatever, then we'll help you get stable housing. No, they take people off the street and put them into housing, not shelters, but like apartments. Give them a place to live. And then once they have a stable place to live, there's a much, much better chance that they are able to make use of the rest of the services they provide, like mental health services, job training, protection from the domestic violence that they might be fleeing, or some of the other causes of homelessness. So it has a very, very high success rate. It is more expensive than other forms of homeless outreach, but it has like an 80+% chance that once you're in that stable housing, you will not become homeless again.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That is.
That's great. So, so much of your fame, I think, was because of that great, wonderful red sweater. But the red sweater was not your first choice, right? You had a bit of a Janet Jackson-esque wardrobe malfunction on the way to the debate, right? Tell us how did the red sweater get the nod?
Yeah, like I knew I was going to be on television, so I wanted to wear something nice. And I had this suit that I had picked out. My grandfather recommended this color. He said it would look good on me. It's kind of an olive color. And my grandfather was well known in our circles for being like a really sharp-dressed guy around town. So I got it, and then he passed away a couple of years before that debate. And so I thought, well, what a nice way to honor my grandfather, who I was named for. He was the original Ken Bone. To dress in the thing that he had recommended. But since he had passed away, I gained about 20 pounds, so I put on that suit, and it didn't really fit, and I split the seat out of the pants as I was getting into my car.
I feel
so
your pain.
I had to switch next nicest thing that I own that I could put on within like 5 minutes, because if I'd have been late to the debate, they wouldn't have let me in.
Okay. All right. Now take us through that day. I mean, you must have known that you were going to ask a question that millions of people were going to see. Were you scared? Were you nervous? Talk us through that day.
No, I don't really get nervous about appearing in front of people or whatever. Like, public speaking is the most common fear in in the United States. It's actually more common than arachnophobia, which I do have.
Okay.
But I just don't happen to be afraid of that, so I don't really care. I'll get up and give speeches or get up in front of people and do whatever. So I never really was very nervous or anything.
Yeah, 67 million
as far as through the day, I had to be there. The debate was at 7 p.m. We had to get there at 8 a.m. to go through security screenings and briefings and instructions and go out and see the stage and be told how to hold the microphone and all that stuff. They really get into the minutia to make sure, to kind of lessen the nervousness that anybody might feel and make sure they're prepared to be on camera.
And the set itself, Dave and I have been on TV. Once you're on a set, it's like, this is just
a closet.
A small little room, right?
It's not that. It's not as small as a lot of other TV sets I've been on. It was on they built it on the basketball court at Washington University.
Oh, wow.
And so, there was a bunch of people up in the bleachers. You could get tickets to go and see it. So there was probably a couple hundred people there. The stage area is not that large. Maybe 2 or 3 times the size of like a suburban living room or something. But there was some more open space around it than a lot of like TV news studios or something would be.
So this was October 6th, 9th? What day was I have it written down. Would you remember?
It was October 9th, I think, of 2016. So about 7.5 years ago.
So just a few weeks later was Halloween. And I remember there were dozens of kids dressed up like Ken Bone coming to my door. That must have freaked you out, because I would imagine even in just 3 weeks, you must have seen kids dressed up like Ken Bone, and you were an obvious sensation. I just think the Halloween thing must have just freaked you out.
There were a lot of folks dressed like Ken Bone. A good friend of mine that I've made through this whole process, he has a radio show here in St. Louis, and he had an adult son at the time who went to a college Halloween party dressed as Ken Boner, which is just dressed like me with a cucumber in your pants. So I thought that was my favorite. But I dressed as Obi-Wan Ken Boney, where I put a Jedi outer robe over the Ken Bone outfit. And I thought that was terribly clever.
Did you see any sexy Ken Bones? You know how every Halloween costume for women is now the sexy version of it? Any sexy Ken Bones?
I didn't see any out making the rounds. It was pretty chilly out, but the original Ken Bone is plenty sexy. You don't need any
exactly.
Touché. Well said, Ken. I imagine going from just a regular dude, which is how you refer to yourself, as an internet sensation, literally within seconds almost, must have been really jarring. And I also read that you had some pretty significant anxiety during that time. Well, tell us a little bit about the blitzkrieg of fame and the struggles that went along with it.
Well, it is a lot of pressure, and it's a very strange thing. Like when you leave your house, like if I would go to the grocery store, there'd be dozens of people around me wanting to take pictures of me and talk to me. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything without reporters or without just random people all over me. So, I understand why some celebrities get upset at all that, because for me it lasted a couple of weeks, like the real blitz of it. For people who are consistently famous, like for actual reasons or talent, it lasts for years or decades or for the rest of their life, and they can't live a normal life anymore. So it's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And I was doing media interviews like this one, or at news stations, or shooting commercials and traveling all over for probably 18 to 20 hours a day for the first 2 weeks. So I was getting very little sleep and a lot of pressure, and every little thing that you do wrong is all of a sudden in magazines, and you have people calling you about it, and it's not the most fun thing in the world. And then all of a sudden you have bomb threats being called into your house, and the SWAT team waking your kid up in the middle of the night and
oh my gosh,
bringing it in a card so that they can sweep your house for explosives.
Wow. So your son was 13 at the time, right?
Yes, he's a grown up now, but at the time he was 13 years old, and 13-year-olds don't need that in their life. Like I didn't know what I was, that was going to happen to me, obviously, but at least I knew I was going to be on camera at the debate. He didn't sign up for any of that. So that's what I really felt bad about, is that my family had to feel a lot of that pressure along with me. And we obviously did not see that coming.
Well, I imagine it definitely provided a lot of stress on your marriage too, probably, right?
Yeah, my wife was very unhappy with a lot of it. Like, she's a wonderful, extremely supportive person, my favorite human being on earth. But it was a lot of stress on her. She didn't like seeing the way that it affected me when things would get bad. And she didn't like the attention most of the time. She's from a small town in Wisconsin with about 120 people in it, and grew up on a farm up there, and she just did not appreciate being the center of attention or having our house, random people coming to our house and knocking on the door wanting to talk to me without calling first or whatnot. She didn't like that very much.
And then, as a are you from St. Louis, or you live near St. Louis?
Bellevue, right?
Yeah, I tell people from out of town that I live in St. Louis, or that I'm from St. Louis. But really, I'm from the east side of the river on the Illinois side, so like the suburbs. It's just when you tell people from other places that you're from Granite City, Illinois, they don't know what that is. They're like, "Is that in Chicago?" I'm like, "No, there are actually other places in Illinois besides Chicago. It's basically St. Louis."
Yeah, and then just a couple days after that, this even more difficultly for you, the Cubs won the World Series.
Yeah, that was actually the worst thing that happened to me that day. We had the SWAT team. That story that I already told you of the SWAT team dragging my kid out of bed was that same day.
Wow.
But the Cubs winning the World Series was worse.
Yeah. Dave agrees with you. He's a White Sox fan.
And the Cardinals are my National League team too. You just reminded me of a story totally unrelated, but I had a client who got drafted the day the Cubs got eliminated from the World Series in 1969.
Oh, wow.
He was sent to Vietnam on the
as a Cubs fan too. Yeah, that's a bad 1-2 punch.
So 7-8 years removed from this, do you miss it? I mean, it's I'm sure there was some fun to this, and now 7 years later, as you reflect, do you kind of miss the spotlight at all?
Oh yeah, overall it's a fantastic experience. I got to travel all over the country, with shoulders with famous people, with politicians, and humans are social animals. So when people validate you and tell you you're great, everybody loves that.
Yeah.
Well, I had thousands of people telling me how great I was for no particular reason. I would sometimes, if I was in theaters or stadiums, I'd have thousands of people chanting my name.
Wow.
And obviously that doesn't happen anymore.
So
and so when that goes away, there's like a withdrawal to that. You start wondering, like, what was what's different about me? Well, nothing's different about me. It's just that people have moved on to the next thing. So it really, it takes a lot of inner reflection to get over something like that.
So what was the highest high during your moment of fame? What was the thing that you were like, pinch me, I can't believe I'm experiencing this right now?
Well, there were two things that really stand out. One was I got to go, I was at an appearance for a radio station a few days before the election, not far from Nashville. And live on the radio at one of their big events, I got to play along with a house band out there. I play the drums and a few other instruments. And, I got to play some Van Halen live on the radio. And people were like, man, he's actually kind of good. And, so that was great. I love playing music. I don't get the chance to do it that often, especially with, like, pro musicians like they had there. And then, to get, like, have those pros tell me, like, man, you come out and play again with us sometime. You're pretty good. But then also I got to go to the red carpet premiere of Doctor Strange out in Hollywood and take my wife to walk the red carpet like Hollywood royalty. And, regular people don't get the chance to do that sort of thing very often. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that I got to do with her, and we'll never forget that.
Did you wear the red sweater on the red carpet?
We did. That was Disney requested that I wear the red sweater. I'm like, if it gets me a free ticket to Hollywood and get to go to the premiere of a big budget movie, then I'll wear whatever you want.
That's
I love it.
I don't know if you've heard, we've got another presidential election coming up in November. Didn't know if you were aware of that or not.
It was in the paper the other day.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a big part of your, claim to fame was that you were supposedly the everyman, right? The undecided voter, right? And everybody, everybody wanted to, this kind of mythical group of people of undecided voters. If you could give advice, and we're not going to ask you who you're leaning to vote for or anything, but if you could give advice to, Biden or Trump or anybody who's running, how should they speak to the truly undecided? I'm not 100% sure there are really that many undecided voters out there, but you being the
that's you. You're the spokesperson for the
undecided.
Yes.
How should they speak to undecided voters?
Well, there weren't many then either. The real criteria for undecided, for how they were like searching for people and doing the surveys, looking for people to participate in this debate, was one of the questions they would ask you is like, who are you going to vote for? And I told them who I was leaning towards. And they're like, well, how likely are you to change your mind on a scale of 1 to 10? And 1 is like, this guy could shake a baby to death on television, I'd still vote for him. And 10 was, it's a complete coin flip. I have no idea who I'm going to vote for. And I think I said like 4 or 5. And normally that's like, I'm like, I think I'm going to vote for this person. But, anything could happen. It was still like 2 months before the election when they when they called me and they were looking for people to participate. So that's not very undecided. But in that extremely contentious election, that was close enough. That was the best you could get because almost everybody had already made up their mind, and it wouldn't have mattered what happened. Now, you also have to remember that all 40 of us who were up there on that stage, we got selected before the Access Hollywood tape came out.
Oh,
the debate was through the Access Hollywood tape, where that drove a lot more people over the edge. But we all got picked before. So there was a whole lot of folks up there who were like, I'm done with Trump after that. But, a lot of the shocking moments that we kind of compress into our memory as all having happened like well in advance had not actually happened yet at that point. So you got to kind of remember that. And as far as what I would tell the candidates, like, I know that Donald Trump can't remember what it was like to be a normal person because he never was. He was born rich. His dad was rich. And Joe Biden can't really remember what it was like to be a normal person because he's 342 years old. And he's been a senator since my dad was in junior high school.
Right.
So that does not lend you towards being a normal human being. But when you're talking to regular people and they bring up concerns like, hey, I can't really pay my grocery bill, or I wrecked my, somebody T-boned my car and I had to buy a new one and it cost triple what a car had cost when I bought my previous one. How the hell am I supposed to keep up? You don't say things like, oh, well, the economy's never been better. Yeah. And both of them say that kind of crap. They're like, oh, the economy is great and it's because of me. Or the economy was great when I was in office. Well, maybe it was great for you, rich dude. It ain't great for us. Do something that's great for us. And or just be honest and say, like, you know what? The president doesn't control the price of oil, buddy. I'll try to stop taking credit for cheap gas, and you try to stop blaming me for expensive gas, because I don't do that. I'm not the emperor.
All right, I like
just
this.
Be a little more honest.
Ken Bone for president.
Yeah, I was just going to say, have you ever thought of going into politics?
We did some polling actually back in 2020 when 2018, I think it was. I was considering running for Congress. I was polling pretty well in the private polling that we did. But being in national politics kind of sucks.
No.
And the more research I put into it, it's like, yeah, there's a pretty decent chance you could win, and you'll be like, a junior congressperson who will spend most of your time fundraising and try to get reelected.
Right.
And if you get reelected like 3 or 4 times in a row, then maybe you'll finally be able to actually do something. Or, maybe you won't. Plenty of people go to Congress and they're in there for like 25, 30 years, and they don't get to do jack. They're like, well, that doesn't sound very appealing, to be away from my family that much and under that much scrutiny forever. So I think I'm just going to not do that.
All right. Well, yeah, we're not going to either.
Yeah. But I would totally vote for it. We're Illinois.
Yeah.
So if you run for, although we wouldn't be.
Yeah, no. Unless he runs for senator.
Yeah, we'd unfortunately not be in the same district. Maybe when Dick Durbin retires, I'll try to get
there you go.
Get his seat. But yeah, you guys would be in a different district from me. I'm in district, well, they actually redistricted after the last election. So I think I'm in district 13 now. It used to be 12.
He even knows who his congressperson is. This is very impressive. This is a good citizen.
Where did you go? We went to U of I. We went to Illinois. Where did you go to school?
I've been to U of I, but I got my bachelor's degree from a tech school. I went to ITT Tech, and I went to high school down here in Southern Illinois. I toured U of I. I got accepted there. Couldn't come up with the money to go there. Didn't want to take out the student loans at the time back in 2000 either.
Yeah.
Wow, 2000. You're a young man.
Yeah, we went to U of I. Our first year was 1981. It was like $800.
Yeah. I mean, they still remembered what a state school meant in those days. Yeah. Well, Ken, this has been fun. Thank you for coming on. If people want to follow you, do you have like a website or anything? Is there any way for people to follow your exploits?
I don't have a website. I'm still somewhat active on Twitter. My handle's @KenBone18. That's the only real social media that I do. If you want to support me in any way, I suppose you could book me on Cameo, and I'll tell your brother-in-law happy birthday or whatever you want. So you can just search Ken Bone on Cameo and find me there. I do, I still do one or two of those a week, making fun of people for losing fantasy football or
what does that go for?
Yeah, what does a Ken Bone cost on Cameo?
$20, I think, is what I got it now. I'm one of the cheaper ones. Otherwise, I'd never do any.
What was the most outlandish one that someone has asked you to do? Can you think of one off the top?
There's plenty of people that just ask you to do inside jokes that you have no freaking clue what you're even saying. You're like, gee, I hope none of this is bad, and I'm just
not
too
a
old
Nazi
to understand.
Yeah, right. Some sort of weird.
They're getting me to say some kind of slur in code that I don't understand. So sometimes I'll have to Google stuff to make sure I'm not being cruel to anyone. But the most fun ones are usually this guy lost a bet or he finished last in the fantasy football league, and I get to just be horrifyingly mean to people in a fun way. And so I've got the nice guy image, and I do try to be a nice person in real life. But to do something fun like that and just completely roast people is a blast.
Oh my God, that's great! Awesome. Everybody, all of our listeners, Ken Bone Cameo.
Yes, check it out. Yeah. And Ken, thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best.
All right, happy to do it. Everybody get out and vote this election, even if you hate both of the candidates, and I bet that you do. There's a lot of down-ballot elections that matter a lot. Your mayor, your city council person, your whoever affects your life way more than the president. Yeah. So it's worth getting out to vote, even if you pick none of the above, like the
entire state.
The most recent prime.
Hey, Ken, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Ken. I appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ken Bone.
That dude gets my vote.
Yeah. He seems like a good guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's young.
No, I know. Yeah. So
college in 2000.
So he's 20 years younger than us. So he's 40. So back then he was 33, I guess, or 30. He was really young. Or I don't know, mid to late 30s when the red sweater.
Yeah, I got to say, I thought he was a little older than that, but that's thanks very much, Ken Bone. Dave, we have people to thank on the show. We've got to thank Brandon Herman, who
scored the guest.
Scored the guest for us. We have to thank Tony Lasano with Opie Productions. Tony is the executive producer of the show, and Ed Silla with the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. You know that they say that Great Talk Radio is dead.
Which is totally
not true because it's just moved to a better place. Yeah, and that is RadioMisfits.com. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of
Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at RadioMisfits.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?